Welcome in everybody to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. And in this episode, we're going to discuss the cap. The NFL cap was finally set after weeks and maybe even months of anticipation as to what number they'd finally settle at. They finally settled at one, and it came as a bit of a surprise. So we're going to get into that. Before we do, if you give us a subscribe, keep you up to date on all the newest news surrounding the Baltimore Ravens. But Jimbo, let us know, what is the salary cap finally going to be at for 2021?
The salary cap is finally set to 182 and a half. And it's funny to me because you were talking about this and you and I kind of had this discussion. Eric DaCosta said he's been working under the premise that it's going to be at 180. So he said in his presser, he'd be happy if it's at 181, right? To give him a little extra space. Now it's at 182 and a half. Glenn, my real question to you is this. Do you believe that Eric DaCosta prefers to have the extra change to spend, or would he have preferred that the teams that are in worse off situations had to pay the price for being in those situations, right? And the cap being a little lower.
Yeah, I think he's kind of rooting, and he's happy that the cap is low. I don't think he was BSing. Now, I know that they announced, was it 10 days to 2 weeks ago that the cap the floor was 180. So it's not going to be any lower than 180. So, DaCosta mentioned that he was operating as if it was 181 because he didn't want to have any surprises. And he was rooting that way. So, and I believe him. I mean, I look around at the teams that have an abundance of cap room. There's not a ton of competitors on that list. I mean, there's not a ton of teams that have more room than the Ravens that are also ready to compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, I think if you buy into the Browns, they have slightly more room. New England has the reputation, but they don't have a quarterback and they don't have any playmakers. So they have a lot of room, but the other guys on the list are teams like Jacksonville that are still so far away, and the Jets and teams that just don't have a ton of talent on their roster and look like they're a couple years away from competing. So I absolutely agree. I think that he is very happy to see this. All you guys do is look right to your rival in the division, and you see the Steelers who are going to be really up against it. I mean, they right now have $5 million in cap space after Big Ben, gave a bunch of money back pretty much, agreed to take a big pay cut. But that doesn't include their rookie class that they're going to have to sign. That doesn't include who they're going to play at left tackle, who's going to be their running back, who's going to fill out, a bunch of positions of importance across their roster. So I think he's absolutely happy to see other teams struggling, because while the Ravens don't have a ton, I think right now, let's see, their projected space is $19.906 million. So just barely under $20 million in space, with over 93 of that, over 93 million of that going towards their defense and just over 54 going towards their offense. I think that they're happy. I mean, I look at, teams like Atlanta, they're negative 14 million in the hole. I mean, Buffalo, a team that's looking to compete in the AFC, they have just 3.4 million in excess space. So there's a bunch of teams that are going to be struggling, and there's a bunch of really good, talented veterans that are probably going to be hitting the market here soon.
Yeah, one of the things I think is interesting is that the ability to retain your talent, right, from the year before, for the teams that were highly competitive, is I guess what I should say. For the teams that were highly competitive, the ability to retain your talent and bring that team back to the field again this coming year is a rarity. And the cool thing is that I think the Ravens have that opportunity for the most part, of course, with Ngakoue and with Judon and with a couple other pieces. But, you think of the Bills already made a big decision, a business decision, and John Brown is gone.
Yep.
He's just gone. They just cut him. And don't tell me, I don't think don't tell me he's not important. I know he was banged up a lot last year, but they need those three receivers when they have no running game.
Right.
So certainly he's an important player. A team like the Saints just got rid of Emmanuel Sanders. Don't tell me he's not important. That you're fooling yourself if you think that's the case. It's just simply not. So the fact that we're in a situation where we can field almost the same exact team, right, without having to make cuts. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're going to lose some guys in free agency, but we don't have to make cuts to get to the number we have to get to. and you're not even talking about improving our roster. That's just keeping it where it was at. I think is a blessing this year more than other years.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think there's going to be teams out there that have to make hard decisions on players they did not want to release. And they may have to go to some veterans, some higher paid veterans, and ask them to take a pay cut, maybe just for this season, that they can figure a way to work it out in a contract to where they make up for it in later years. But yeah, they're going to have to make some tough decisions. And luckily, the Ravens don't look like they have to make that. Now, if they're eyeing someone in free agency that we're not aware of, that they need to make space for, then they could end up making some cuts. But yeah, we're not going to see that Emmanuel Sanders, that shocking cut that we've seen from teams around the league. And I guess Emmanuel isn't stunning, but he only spent 1 year there.
Well, and he's just pivotal, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, well, you got to have some, especially when Michael Thomas is now, you're not sure of his health status because he battled an injury all last year. You're going to Taysom Hill at quarterback, and you're going to want some weapons to help make his job a little bit easier. I mean, you're moving on from the guy who holds basically every quarterback record, in Drew Brees. So, yeah, you're going to need to have some weapons. So my whole thing is, what does this do for the free agents that are currently, on the market? Because, man, is this the worst year? I mean, look at last year. Last year, the cap, guys, was $198.2 million. $198.2 million last year. And which is the 10th year in a row that it had gone up, So the fact that it dropped to now 182.5 from $16 million drop, and that no one could have anticipated this. No one could have expected this. This is insane. So I just wonder how many of these guys that were hoping to hit the jackpot and make that big contract that sets them and their kids up and their kids' kids up for generations. And how are they going to play this out? Are they going to accept any long-term deal they want, because at least it's guaranteed money in their pocket, and they don't have to worry, what if I get injured? What if I get in a car accident, on the way to the game next year or something crazy? Mm-hmm. They don't have to. So are they betting on themselves and taking that 1 year prove it deal for a little bit less money than they were hoping and expecting, and then, going to hit the big jackpot next year when the cap rebounds? Or are they going to take whatever's, the most guaranteed they can get, even if it is lesser than that they were expecting or hoping for, that they deserve? So what are your thoughts on how many? Do you think there's going to be a bunch of guys out there that take big time discounts for just 1 year?
Yeah, I think so. And in fact, it's going to be so interesting because there's a term, a chilling effect, like in law, right? Where, if somebody takes legal action on something, even like, for example, and this is not completely relevant to the conversation, but hold on here, Glenn. It'll come back around. So right. Like Taylor Swift, came out and charged somebody for some sexual harassment case. And I'm not being insensitive to this, but her civil suit was for $1, right? But it wasn't about the money, right? It was about the point. But the reason I bring that up is it has a chilling effect on the other people that might try and do the same things that this guy was doing to Taylor Swift, right? So how much does the coronavirus have as far as a chilling effect on these free agents, right? Like, it's going to be so interesting. Just like you're talking about, they're used to hitting the jackpot for their family's right? And now they have to rethink things and say, oh, shoot, maybe, like you said, I grab the smaller bag, if you will, right? Because I know it's guaranteed, because they don't know what's going to happen the next year. And the year after, because, yeah, you could say the cap's going to rebound. The NFL's doing this, that, and the other. But look, we've learned one thing through this pandemic is that we never know what's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how many guys will be nervous, and how many GMs will smell a little bit of blood in the water and get strategic with their offerings.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see. I can tell you one GM who's not going to be.
Who's that?
Oh, Mike Mayock.
No?
Not having the best offseason so far.
No. Well, so you don't like the trade?
No, I don't like any of the moves that they've done.
Yeah, there's been some head scratchers, but let me just point out some teams that I think are really in for a tough one. Atlanta Falcons, still negative 14 and some change over the cap. And do you expect? I mean, I don't look at them as a team that's anywhere close to competing. They got aging guys making a lot of money on their team with guys like Ryan and Julio Jones, and making a ton of money. Not to say that they're not still effective players, but they're older, and you don't want to be old and under the cap. That's
they're only
a bad
young guys
combo.
on defense. Like Keanu Neal, if I'm not mistaken, they decided not to tag him.
Did they really? Wow.
Yeah, they decided not. So, I mean, he's going to hit free agency. So it's not that their defense was great, but that's just another example. You can't pay the guy who you probably want to pay strategically, but you just can't.
Exactly. And then Chicago Bears. I mean, they're $17.5 million in the red, and they're talking about acquiring a quarterback. Well, how are you going to pay the guy? I mean, I don't know how they're going to have to, what package they're going to have to put together in a trade to get rid of salaries or who they're going to have to cut, but they're going to have to make some seriously tough decisions. And it's shocking when I look at teams like the Bears and Tampa was another one that chose to tag these guys. And then as far as we know, they were unaware of the cap number that was coming out today. They knew the floor, but I bet a lot of them would have assumed it would have been a little bit higher than 182. I don't know if they got any news earlier than we did or how it works, but a team like Chicago, they tagged Allen Robinson, right? I mean, that's not cheap, and they're negative 17.5 in the hole. I don't know how they can. I don't know what led into that decision to tag that guy when you may have been able to have a scenario. I don't know if this is certain, but you may have had a scenario where you could have paid a guy a lot less on a cheap 1-year deal, maybe not Allen Robinson, but maybe another guy, and then not take such a monster hit. So I think the Bears are in big trouble. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, Green Bay is $9.5 million in the hole. And you look at where they're spending their money. It's Aaron Rodgers, and then it's guys that go tackle the quarterback, and Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith. They're going to have to make some decisions. Their offensive line, Ricky Wagner's not there anymore. It's going to be interesting. They choose to let Aaron Jones hit the free agent market. And
Lindsley.
I know Lindsley's gone at center, the best rated center in the league last year. They've had injury issues with Bakhtiari at left tackle. They're going to have to make some tough decisions. The Kansas City Chiefs, Jimbo, they almost $21 million in the hole. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to get it. The Rams, $33 million in the hole still. They got a lot of work to do. The Saints, oh my goodness, we just talked about them. They cut Emmanuel Sanders. They're almost $54 million in the hole.
Right, that ain't going to pull the truck up the hill. Just Emmanuel Sanders, guys.
No, you got to make Ramchek's going to likely be gone, and that's got to be devastating for a team that you draft a stud right tackle and you have to watch him walk out the door. Man, just ask the Ravens.
Do you think Eric DeCosta is giddy? Like low key, do you think he's a little giddy?
I think he's laughing. I think he's got to be looking around and going, "What are you guys gonna do?" I mean, I know that these guys are whizzes with the cap, and they got the geniuses on their staff. They can figure out a way to work things, but I mean, there's only so much you can do when you're that far in the hole.
And let me tell you this too, Glenn. I agree that there's a lot of whizzes and geniuses out there in the cap. I consider Eric DeCosta one of them. So I'm sorry, but there are not 32 cap whizzes that are in GM roles, in my opinion. I think a lot of them go on gut, tradition.
Well, a lot of them have guys that are that role.
They do, but there are also a lot of them that get rolled over by agents, and now they're paying the price for it.
Yeah, they get rolled over by agents, and they just get so excited about the talent that they don't have the foresight thinking multiple years ahead. And I think that's why a lot of these teams got in the trouble that they're in right now. But for the Ravens, it's Pat Moriarty, right? It's Pat Moriarty, Eric DeCosta, Dick Cass. Those guys are the guys that make those decisions.
Still there, of course.
Absolutely. But I think Ozzie probably took that step back role and just said, "Let me just be a scout. Let me just be your head scout, basically." Because I think that's what he loves.
But if Eric's got a big decision, he's still picking up the phone and talking.
I mean, I think he's walking right next door into the next office. I think if they're back at the castle, because I know their offices are right next door, and then John is like right across from both of them. So I think that you're right. I think there's no doubt that he was grinning ear to ear seeing that and just loves seeing teams scramble around to decide what they're going to do. Because I think when Diana Rossini tweeted out that it's going to be a massacre. It could be. I mean, it's got to be right. I mean, I don't know what these guys are going to do because you got to sign your rookies, which is what $5 million. I don't know exactly, but it's got to be around there. You got to account for injuries. Guys are going to get dinged up, and when a guy gets hurt, he still counts against your cap. So it's not like that money just goes away. It still counts. So man, you got to have a certain amount going into a season. It's not like you can be right up against it, when you're starting the season, because you have to account for injuries and stuff that may happen. So
don't you think in a normal year where the cap jumps, like for example with the Steelers, they're right, they're our rival in the AFC North. They would have at least had the opportunity to tag a guy like Bud Dupree.
Yeah.
Right. Like, with the cap increasing, you restructure Ben, you do some things here and there, and at least you can have that conversation. They can't even have that conversation with that guy because, like you said, they're in the hole. They're trying, or, they're barely out of the hole now. They're $5 million. But we know with Judon's tag, that's 16.8. It's going to go up this year. Call it 17 and a half for that tag. They can't pay for that. So it's going to be interesting. And I tell you what, I firmly believe that the Ravens will reap the benefits. All these contracts of these interior linemen. Look, here's a 1 year deal. Here's a 1 year. Eric DeCosta's gonna be out there like Oprah, baby, just giving them out left and right, dude. Look under your chairs, offensive linemen. Like that's what
you got a contract. Here's a pen. Time to sign. And the great thing is, if you're a free agent and you have to decide, say you come resigned to the fact that you're going to have to take a 1 year prove it deal for less money than you were expecting. All right, so what is on your wish list of what you want? You want a good organization, right? An organization that's known to treat you like a man, treat you with respect. Ravens got that. You want a team that's ready to compete. They got that. You probably want a nice young quarterback. Okay, they got that. I mean, you want a team that's known, and they talked about it in the recent press conferences for being healthy lately. I mean, they talked about Steve Saunders and what he's done for this team from a health standpoint perspective. I mean, they turned it, John was saying, this isn't just, you do your leg day twice a week, you do this day twice a week, you squat, you bench. It's not like that. They have totally gone analytic with the way they treat their bodies and have done more strength training geared toward what they do on the field and not not just picking things up and putting them back down. You know what I mean? So I think I would want to go to a team like the Ravens who made such a commitment to keeping guys healthy. So because I want to come out of this, I want to have a good experience and I want to come out of it healthy. Well, the Ravens can guarantee that. Can't guarantee health, but they can guarantee the good experience, and they more than most teams can say, look, you got a good shot at staying healthy here. We don't overplay our guys. We have we're at the forefront of taking care of our bodies here in Baltimore. So yeah, I think that it's going to end up being a really, really good offseason for the Ravens. It's just going to be fun to watch it play out.
Absolutely. Let us know what you guys think about the salary cap, about the strategy. Also, let us know what you think. Name drop some guys you think the Ravens should go after. And are you as excited as us that other teams will be in peril? Let us know all your thoughts, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
See you.